Are you a new mom wondering when to introduce a breastfeeding schedule for your baby? It's a common and completely understandable question, especially given that every little one is unique in their own way. This question of timing is often surrounded by uncertainty, which is perfectly normal. After all, we're talking about your precious little bundle of joy, and you want to do what's best for them. In this video, we'll be tackling this question head-on, providing you with valuable insights and information that will help you make informed decisions. We'll delve into understanding your baby's feeding patterns, discuss the ideal time to start a breastfeeding schedule, and share some practical tips on how to establish a routine that works for both you and your baby. Remember, you're not alone in this. We're right here with you, ready to help you navigate through the wonderful, sometimes challenging, but always rewarding journey of motherhood. No worries, we are here to help you navigate through this journey. Hi, welcome to Nenversa. On this channel, we talk about everything mom style, confidence, breastfeeding, pumping, and motherhood. If you find this video helpful in any way, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our videos. Before we dive into the specifics of scheduling, it's important to understand your baby's feeding patterns. Babies, especially newborns, have an innate sense of when they're hungry and when they're full. This instinctive behavior is something we, as parents, should respect and respond to. It's crucial to observe and understand your baby's hunger cues and natural feeding patterns. So what are these cues? They can be as subtle as lip movements or as loud and clear as crying. Early signs might include turning their head towards your chest or making sucking motions. As these cues get stronger, your baby might start to fuss or squirm and eventually cry. The key here is to feed your baby before they start crying, as crying is usually a late hunger cue. Now let's talk about natural feeding patterns. During their first few weeks, babies often feed on demand, meaning they'll eat when they're hungry. This could be as often as every 1 to 3 hours. Yes, it might seem like a lot, but remember, their tummies are tiny and breast milk is easily digested. Pediatricians often recommend this on-demand approach during the newborn stage. It not only ensures your baby is getting enough nourishment, but it also helps establish your milk supply. So if it feels like you're always feeding, that's perfectly normal. As your baby grows and their stomach expands, you'll notice that they'll start to go longer between feedings. This is a natural progression, and it's important to let it happen in its own time. Trying to force a feeding schedule too early can interfere with this natural development and your baby's growth. In conclusion, understanding your baby's feeding patterns is all about observing, responding, and being patient. It's a beautiful journey of bonding and nurturing that's unique to you and your baby. Remember, the first few weeks are all about understanding and responding to your baby's needs. Don't stress too much about schedules in these early days. Instead, focus on getting to know your little one and their unique way of communicating their needs to you. Now that we've talked about the early weeks, let's discuss when to introduce a breastfeeding schedule. Timing is everything, isn't it? Especially when it comes to your little one's feeding schedule. But when is the right time to set a breastfeeding schedule? The answer varies, as all babies and their needs are unique. However, it's generally recommended to begin after the first month. Why the first month, you might ask? Well, during the early weeks, your baby's feeding pattern can be unpredictable. They might want to feed often, sometimes every 1 to 2 hours, as their little tummies don't hold much. This frequent feeding helps establish your milk supply and is crucial for your baby's growth and development. Additionally, those early weeks are a time of bonding and learning. You're getting to know your baby, their cues, and rhythms. Your baby is also learning to latch, to feed, and to communicate with you. It's a beautiful dance of understanding and connection. Once breastfeeding is well established, usually around the first 4 to 6 weeks, you might notice a more predictable pattern emerging. This is a good time to start considering a breastfeeding schedule. But remember, every baby is different, and it's important to follow their lead. Pediatricians and lactation consultants often advise waiting until breastfeeding is well established before introducing a schedule. That's because a rigid schedule too early can interfere with establishing a good milk supply and may not meet your baby's nutritional needs. So, don't rush into a schedule. Take the time to understand your baby's unique feeding patterns and needs. Remember, it's not about creating a strict timetable, but rather about finding a rhythm that works for you and your baby. One significant aspect of this journey is patience. It might take some time to find the right rhythm, but that's okay. It's about finding the right balance for both you and your baby. In the end, breastfeeding is more than just feeding. It's a relationship, a bond between you and your baby. It's about love, connection, and nourishment, both physical and emotional. Patience is key here. It's about finding the right balance for both you and your baby. Once you're ready to start a schedule, there are a few tips that can help make the transition smoother. First, start by gradually introducing the schedule. Don't expect your baby to adjust to a rigid timetable right away. Begin by noting down when your baby naturally feeds and sleeps, then slowly adjust these times to create a more structured routine. Next, always be flexible. Babies aren't robots, and they won't always stick to a schedule. Some days they may want to feed more often, other days less. If your baby is hungry, feed them, even if it's not feeding time yet. Flexibility is key in the early stages of establishing a breastfeeding schedule. Another essential factor to consider is your baby's growth spurts. During these periods, your little one may need to feed more often. These growth spurts typically occur around 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 months, and 6 months. So, don't be surprised if your carefully crafted schedule goes out the window during these times. Sleep patterns also play a critical role in establishing a breastfeeding schedule. Babies usually sleep a lot, but not for very long at a stretch. Try to align your feeding schedule with your baby's sleep cycles for minimal disruption. Finally, don't hesitate to seek help if you're struggling. You don't have to figure everything out on your own. Healthcare professionals, lactation consultants, or even experienced mom friends can be invaluable sources of advice and support. Just keep in mind that establishing a breastfeeding schedule is more of an art than a science. It requires patience, flexibility, and a good dose of intuition. And remember, it's okay to take a step back and reevaluate if something isn't working. Remember, every baby is different, so what works for one may not work for another. It's all about finding what works best for you and your baby. Breastfeeding is a journey, and it's normal to have questions and concerns. Today, we've navigated the landscape of this intimate journey together. We delved into understanding your baby's unique feeding patterns, a critical first step. Remember, every baby is different, and the cues they give you are the best guide to their needs. We also explored when to start a breastfeeding schedule. The key takeaway here is that timing is everything. It's about finding the right balance for you and your baby. Additionally, we shared some handy tips for establishing a breastfeeding schedule. From consistency to flexibility, these tips are designed to give you a sense of control while still catering to your baby's needs. Above all, have faith in your instincts. They are your most powerful tool in this journey. And remember, support is always available when you need it. Trust yourself, Mama. You're doing a great job, and you're not alone in this journey. Does your baby fuss at the breast? This behavior is more common than you might think. Welcome to the world of motherhood, where every coo, cry, and giggle of your little one becomes a language you strive to comprehend. And among the myriad of expressions, baby fussiness is one that often leaves new moms puzzled. So, what exactly is fussiness? It's a term used